You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis on all things sports. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, subscribe to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports, and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop.
Are you looking for a place to listen to your favorite music and sports? Look no further. WLSN, the Lieb Sports and Music Network, is a web-based music and sports network. Our network was created to provide authentic, high-energy entertainment through live streaming to a national audience. We play popular music while hosting podcasts from all over the world. Curious? Check us out on the web at liebsports.com. That's LEEIB sports.com. Or find us on the TuneIn Radio app. Got Alexa? Just say, Alexa, play WLSN on TuneIn. WLSN is America's #1 blog-themed sports and music network.
Hey, everyone in, let's go. Huddle up on 3. 1, 2, 3, huddle up.
I don't want them to gain another yard.
You blitz all night. If they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm going to take every last one of you out. You make sure they remember forever the night they played the Titans.
The Eagles will keep the offense out there on a 4th and goal from the 1.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Hold on. Here we go.
I would feel better at this point taking the 3 points.
Here we go.
And if you make it, it's great. But if you don't make it, it's a big momentum swing.
Philly special. Ready? Here we go.
Goes directly to Clement. Clement reverses it. And it is a touchdown by Nick Foles.
Let's go.
Russian 3, dropping 8. Uyangalele steps up, loads and throws. It's caught. It's pitched backwards, up in the air. It's on the ground, still in Clemson's hands. And now it is down. It is over. And the Irish have knocked off #1 Clemson. And now, welcome everyone to the Huddle Up Podcast.
We did it our way, baby. We did it.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Huddle Up Podcast. We are back. It is a different night for us, but after being completely off a week ago, we didn't want to go this week without a show. I wasn't able to do it tomorrow, and boy, howdy, Kyle, didn't the sports world give us something to talk about on a Monday night?
Yeah, as if you didn't miss enough stuff already. Like, hey, I know you tried your best to miss me talking trash on your intro, but EJ Finally Useful dunked on you instead. Don't think I didn't notice that. Where the hell is my library wing, Warden?
But welcome back, Kyle. Not with us 2 weeks ago when we were on the air last, but you know, sometimes real life and other things get in the way. That is why we are here on a Monday night, and the show will be a little bit different this week because of it. We won't actually have NFL pick'ems because, let's be honest, NFL games are literally almost a week away. We're not going to have reaction to the new college football playoff rankings because they don't come out until about 24 hours from now. So
although there'll be plenty we're talking about that could impact that issue.
There will certainly be stuff we can talk about, and there will certainly be our thoughts on what this week's top 6 should look like in the college football playoff, and then you can find out how right or wrong we are 24 hours from now when the rankings come out. But the first topic that I was going to get to, Kyle, was a head coach leaving his school to go to another school.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, wait, we're not on that one yet. Sorry.
What, an hour and a half ago, my entire sports world came a crumbling down as the reports. Brian Kelly is leaving Notre Dame to become the new head football coach at LSU, replacing Ed Orgeron, who, of course, we knew about midway through this season would not be returning. To say that I am like in a weird state of like shock and stunned at this point is really kind of an understatement. I really didn't think that Brian Kelly was like leaving anywhere. And a week or so ago, in his press conference, they asked him, because I guess his name had come up in the USC talks,
right?
And he was basically like, unless, he kind of gave a similar answer to what Mike Tomlin had said a few weeks ago in a press conference when asked about leaving Pittsburgh for USC, and basically said, unless somebody's going to write me a check for $250 million, or I forget the number that was put on it, but I have no reason to leave here. And per the, the least some of the reports that are coming out is it's not quite $250 million, but it's maybe about half of that is the number that's been thrown around. But Brian Kelly out at Notre Dame, leaving to go to LSU. What are your initial thoughts, Kyle?
Well, specific to the press conference you mentioned, what was it he said? If they're throwing names out there, they're usually looking somewhere that they don't want you to look as to what's actually going on. Yeah. If they're throwing your names out, it's not like LSU was,
True.
And here's it's very fascinating. Like I'm sure listen, you're wearing your Notre Dame gear, which proves to me that it was laundry night. So all your non-Notre Dame stuff is currently being washed, and you're stuck having to wear that and wallow in your sorrow. And for that, sir, I completely understand.
Well, it's not like I'm certainly not going to wear any Cowboys blue tonight.
Whoa! Yeah, well, listen, if you don't want to talk about Tristan Hill, I understand. But that was a cheap shot. Yeah, listen, I want to do anything I can to make the shine of the blue star on top of your tree and DJ's a little brighter. Anyways, so here he goes. Boom, there it is. See, and I think you and I were kind of talking, well, you and EJ at least, because I stopped and said filed for content as the actual disciplined sports personality that I tend to be at times. But you and EJ were waxing poetic about which one of the two is actually a better job. And I got to be honest, I'm not so certain one job is necessarily better than the other, except for one particular facet. And that is, what more can Brian Kelly accomplish? I should learn his middle name. What can Brian Kelly accomplish anymore in his coaching career at Notre Dame? Right? The chances of him actually achieving a national championship, as both disgusting and impressed.
Keith, by the way, Keith is the middle name.
Okay, so Mr. Brian Keith Kelly. What more can Brian Keith Kelly achieve at Notre Dame other than bringing them a national championship? Which, while that would be both disgusting and impressive to me in its own right, and yes, I'm making jokes at your expense, sir.
Ain't the first time, won't be the last time, Kyle.
Damn straight. Hey, you and EJ love abuse, so I provide. But anyways. The punchline being, what more can he actually accomplish there? Reasonably. With the committee being a thing, and even having a former Notre Dame head coach on the committee hasn't done a whole lot for them. I mean, yeah, sure. They have no reason to be ranked as high as they are, and people are using a conspiracy theory to say they get backdoor into the playoffs, and it's absolutely the most disgusting thing of late, not called Wake Forest this season. But I'm letting loose, Jim. Okay, it's been weeks. Let me work.
Clearly.
Wow. Hey, at least you're better than Wake Forest. I mean,
there's a lot of things better than Wake Forest.
No bar. But all I could think of is that this is a how can I do better move. And as far as what more can I achieve? I mean, the man's at a particular time, and I'm pretty certain at Mr. Brian Keith Kelly's age that this is going to be his final coaching job. Could be wrong. Stranger things have happened, but that's a safe assumption. And to go into a program that this time, 3-4 years ago, had the best statistical offense ever in the sport, right? In college football, it makes sense for him to go there. It makes sense for him to get an easier recruiting situation. He doesn't have to worry as much about academics and other certain things. And it's a fresh look where maybe for a year or two, they won't be calling for his head to be fired to the same extent people in Notre Dame have. Okay.
True. Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
I can't argue with you on that one.
every third game, forget third year. Hell, I'm sure there were people in that game where they toppled the juggernaut known as Toledo late in the game that people were going during that game, fire Brian Kelly. I'm sure it happened.
Oh, I'm almost willing to guarantee it. I'm almost willing to guarantee it.
And while I'm not naive enough to think that there will always be those fans in every college football program. Hell, there's people talking about firing Gus Malzahn at UCF with what he achieved in that whole situation. And I can name other people talk about fire Saban, for Christ's sake. Come on.
Joe Buck yourself.
Whoa, nice. You found a way for me to like Joe Buck. Boom. But that's all I could think it is, because as prestige and tradition go, I mean, few programs have fewer history, more history than Notre Dame. They exist, but yeah. But as far as recent consistent success, LSU and Notre Dame have both been to the playoff. The only difference is one has a national championship. I think it's clear that Notre Dame has been to the playoff more. But is that because they were truly a better program, or because it's in the SEC? And also, the man known as Nick Saban is getting up there in years. And maybe, just maybe, Brian Kelly's calculating just a little bit to think he could get his program where he'd like. Yeah, exactly. Get his program where he would like, or maybe he's just looking at his contract. Hell, I don't know.
I mean, it's probably there's probably a mix of both there, Kyle. Like, let's be honest. It's
Brian Kelly's a smart dude.
We've talked about it how many times over the course of the years. College football is a business.
Oh yeah.
First and foremost, it's a business. And Brian Kelly made a business decision 11 years ago, 12 years ago, when he went from Cincinnati to Notre Dame, and he's doing the same thing today. 100%. And like I said, shocked, stunned. I truly thought he would retire at Notre Dame. 60 years old. I know that's not necessarily old when you look at Saban and you look at some other coaches around the country that are old. And in the NFL, but it just seemed like that he was going to remain there. You kind of had a succession built in. Whether it was, there was reports of Tommy Rees, and then you bring in Marcus Freeman a year ago as your defensive coordinator, kind of looked like he's going to be the guy, a couple years from now that's going to take over that program. And I mean, now you're in this weird thing where there's reports that, there's already discussions that they're going to promote Marcus Freeman now. There's some reports that Marcus Freeman is going with Brian Kelly to LSU.
That's probably more likely, frankly.
Or do you try and bring it? Because that's the next question is where does Notre Dame go from here? Obviously now, I mean, USC off the board, LSU off the board.
Right.
The two biggest programs with vacancies right now are Notre Dame and Oklahoma. Florida as well. I did forget about Florida.
Well, Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley recently leaving that, as you mentioned, for USC. And if you want to believe the conspiracy theorist, rookie volunteer head coach Josh Heupel being talked about for the Oklahoma job in speculation. And who knows, it would be truly a Scott Frost thing to do, to get started at a program and then jump to your home state. And then the college from which Frost left Heupel left to go to Tennessee, and now he could do the same thing that Frost did to UCF, and just, oh my gosh, there's so many circles here.
Surely. Yeah, but I mean, there's some of the talks already that
should we count Miami as a big job, by the way? I should ask. I'm not.
No, not anymore.
No, hell no.
So, and there's the talk of are they going to look towards Luke Fickell at Cincinnati to replace Brian Kelly, which, hell, the last time Notre Dame hired a guy from Cincinnati when they were coming off of an undefeated season, it worked out okay for the Irish in the long run.
So are you saying that the team in Cincinnati has a history with coaches whose loyalty is a little bit fickle? Thank you.
And here's the thing, like I'm like I said, I'm stunned, like I'm in shock. There's a degree of anger at the world right now, but like I'm not, like I've already seen like some Notre Dame fans that are like, do we ever thank this guy again? Look, this house will always be a Brian Kelly house. This house will always love Brian Kelly. He took over a program that for the better part of 15 years was 500 or better in the post-Lou Holtz world. And not only did he come in and turn the program around, stabilize the program, but he turned them back into yes, there was one season, BCS National Championship, where they had no business being there, but they got there. And then they turned them into a multi-time college football playoff team. And time against bad. Like I said, look, I'm not denying that Notre Dame had no business in that BCS national title game.
That's less for you and more for one of your favorite fans, and I'll leave it at that.
But like I said, that year they ended up winning games they had no business winning. They ended up in a national championship game they had no business being in, but they got there nonetheless. So like, winningest coach in Notre Dame history. We've talked about it. The first ever, 4 straight 10-win seasons. No coach has ever done that at Notre Dame. So this will always be a Brian Kelly house, regardless.
Let me ask this one last question, though. You as a Brian Kelly fan, and I mean, listen, I have said many times to people out there that they're absolutely stupid for wanting to fire Brian Kelly. Never understood it. Love the man, even in how he operates himself in press conferences. I've had a chance to do multiple press conferences with this cat. I really like talking to him. He's not necessarily a boisterous personality, one you like to enjoy talking to, like, let's say, a Dino Babers or a Coach Ogeron or something like that. But this is a guy, you ask him football questions, you will get football answers. It's wonderful. Okay. You come at him with some silliness, he's going to coach speak you as you deserve. And, he's going to realize that he doesn't deserve to be fired. You deserve to be fired. And I say all of the above to say this. Let's say he goes to LSU and whiffs. I doubt it. But let's say he goes to LSU and whiffs. Just completely whoom. What's the worst? What's the downside? Where's the actual risk here? If he fails, oh, well, I guess I'll still just retire the winningest coach in Notre Dame expletive-deleted history, right?
Sure.
I mean, if there's a downside, help me here, Jim. I can't.
I mean, well, not only is he going to, like, if he goes down there and whiffs, if he doesn't go down there, doesn't win a national title, because ideally, if you're Brian Kelly, you're going to the SEC. Recruiting's a little bit different in the SEC.
I'm going even worst case scenario, though. But yeah, I hear you. I agree.
You know what I mean? You don't go win a national title. You don't win the SEC. You get your doors blown in by Bama every year and Georgia every couple of years, whatever. You go down there and you look a fool. You don't look a fool. You took a program for $125 million and you're still going to retire the winningest coach in Notre Dame football history. And like, how many more coaches are going to be given 13 years at Notre Dame? You know what I mean? Like, and
how many coaches anywhere are going to get 13 years?
Exactly. So, like, I have a hard time thinking that record is going to be broken anytime soon. So, he's cashing in, man. He's setting that retirement up real nice.
Now, with that segue, a coach who now currently gave himself a great opportunity to extend to 13 years might be one Jim Harbaugh.
Dude, you ain't kidding. Like I didn't even like I was going to get to him and that when we got to our college football top 6, because the other coach that I was going to bring up in the coaching change is Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma for USC.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers there reported in that contract are just some insane numbers that we've seen come out, that they bought out his house in Oklahoma. They bought him a home.
No. Houses in Stillwater.
In Stillwater.
Plural.
Then you buy him a house in California.
Right.
Unlimited use of the jet for him and his family. I mean, just the numbers are crazy, but I mean, when you're USC, you have the ability to lay out things like that, and
disgusting to me. I'm sorry.
I know it, right? Like, I mean, it is pretty gross. But you know, I kind of joked last night when the news broke. I said, well, I think he should do okay there. He's used to coaching in a conference that doesn't play defense, so he should.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, it's at least on paper, it's a great move for USC.
I mean, well, listen, as reasonably assumed targets in college football as there have been, because no one expected Brian Kelly, and if you're telling me you did, you're full of it, okay? Even the boosters, according to reports all over the place, were shocked, and I actually mean it this time.
Yeah, so, no, the words out of South Bend, I mean, it blindsided, and I guess Oklahoma probably similar.
What in the entire is
yeah.
So Lincoln Riley was the top candidate that was assumed to be able to be poached because reasons I still don't understand why. And right behind him, Luke Fickell. But because I think we're looking less and less at Notre Dame, Penn State's guy, because his name comes up all the damn time.
Well, he just got extended for 10 years.
So Franklin's out of it, right? But
it's good job, Penn State. 10 years of 7-5. Good work.
Well, that's a separate conversation.
Yeah, that's another episode.
Yeah, that's what happens when you try to play college football in the Northeast. It is what it is. But you gotta like what they did. But I hate seeing. As much as I am a guy who thinks that college players should not be paid to play, name, image, and likeness, I love it. Please.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that one.
But should not be paid to play. It is absolutely disgusting that an institution of alleged higher learning, I know, boosters, whatever, shut up.
Right.
Is buying multiple houses over and above millions of dollars, and the layman doesn't actually know how much jet fuel costs. I don't either. I just remember oh gosh, I'm losing his name. Tim. How am I doing this? I'm gonna hate myself later. But the butler in Clue. Anyways, the punchline: the only way I know how much jet fuel costs is because he uses in a Russian accent in the movie Congo $55,000. Tim Curry. How did I blow that? Tim Curry saying $55,000. I can't do Russian very well. I have a lot of voice talent. That is not my house. But the punchline is, that's a lot of effing money. Yes. Sure, it's nothing compared to millions, but when you're using it unlimitedly, and hey, over the next 13 years, how much can he rack up? Oh wait, this isn't Brian Kelly. Sorry. No, I think it's obviously it's the hire. And please let's also note for the house purchases for the two houses in Stillwater that they offered $500,000 over ask.
It's insane. Like
allegedly.
Right. I mean, yeah, that is allegedly, but still, I mean, would it shock you? That's the other question. Like, would it surprise you in the business of college football. That's getting bigger and bigger and more bombastic with every year.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, kinda. Because one of my favorite platitudes is that no one got rich cutting checks. But damn. But I mean,
yeah, and maybe I don't know. Maybe USC will with this hire.
One could only hope, man. Damn it.
But I mean, I think for them, they want to be in the top of their conference discussion, and I think this hire can at least get them there. Does it get them to a national title? Does it get them to playoffs? That'll remain to be seen. But I think at least it immediately, because
conference favorite.
Right, like USC, it's not that they're void of talent; they were void of coaching, and
yeah,
they've at least balanced that out.
And defense, I mean,
well, sure, but it's the Pac-12.
I mean, it's the other thing. Something else I just thought of too, like it's a good look that they're trying to do something to rebuild their program and their image, but it's a bad look for USA. Didn't they just have a whole scandal academically about kids buying grades, essentially, and now you're going to pull this horse manure?
Well,
what the God.
Again, if there's a dirty industry in this country, college football is among them.
Yeah, but to be honest, like this is grosser than anything I've heard of in the South, and that should tell you something.
Yeah, no, it's wild, man, and like I think that's the crazy part. Is I think it only gets wilder from here, right? I mean, like it just.
Who knows,
I don't see how it settles more, but let's transition to things on the field, things that relate to this season. College football playoff. The new rankings, of course, will come out tomorrow night. But as we've been doing on this show, since even before the first official rankings over a month ago came out, we've been giving our top six. So I will start with mine. And I know you're going to give me shit for this, but I tweeted Saturday, and I'm not going to make myself out to be a liar. People are probably going to think I'm nuts. My number 6, Notre Dame. They're out of the picture. This is the one that's probably going to get the reaction. My number 5, Alabama. I don't think Alabama's a top 4 football team right now. This weekend, they're going to find their way out of it anyway, so it's irrelevant. My number 4, Oklahoma State.
That's the part that made me laugh. I'm sorry.
My number 4, Oklahoma State. My number 3, Cincinnati. My number 2, obviously coming off the big win at home this past weekend, the Michigan Wolverines. My number 1, as it's been all year, no surprise here, the Georgia Bulldogs. Kyle, your top 6.
I didn't hear you say Oklahoma State. Did you say Oklahoma State?
They're my number 4.
Okay. That is
in reality, when the rankings come out tomorrow, Bama will at worst be 4. Let's be honest.
At
worst, they'll be 4.
And that's what they've set up. Like, first of all, you wanted, Jim Nyes, for Auburn to lose that game. You truly did. Can I tell you why?
Why did I want Auburn to lose that game?
Because if Auburn won that game, and somehow, it probably wouldn't happen, but if somehow Nick Saban did something very Nick Saban and beat Georgia in the conference championship, please tell me how it is acceptable to keep both Georgia and Alabama out.
Well, I don't think Georgia would be kept out.
So what you're saying in that scenario is that you would keep out the conference champion of the SEC. You wanted Auburn to lose that game. Period.
Fair.
Full stop.
Fair.
Now, and again, I maintain that we are left at the committee's devices, sir, when it comes to what happens in the SEC championship game, because if that game's still close, Alabama's still on the table.
Okay? Which I won't necessarily get into the argument on that. What I will say is watching Alabama, especially over the final month of the year, I don't see a scenario where the game this Saturday is close. I think Georgia is going to maul Alabama. We'll get to that.
I didn't see a scenario other than the Iron Bowl and division games are weird, or whatever you want to say, conference
Whatever
games.
EJ says.
You know, and I'm not saying the F word. And at any rate, no. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's in like a chat or a comment somewhere going, "It's frisky. The word is frisky." You know,
You gotta find like a Christie's commercial to put on the soundboard.
You better listen. You better get in talks with the cat food company pronto, Chief. Okay? No. So, anyways, please remember there is a time. Now it seems like the ancient past. I forget the year precisely, but TCU had beaten their opponent 50 points was the differential. Now back then, of course, the Big 12 didn't have a conference championship game yet, so that was really the big factor. But they had beaten their opponent by 50 and were undefeated, and somehow were left out as poll ranked conference champions. Okay. Enough about that. Anything's possible. Blah blah blah. Oh yeah, Cincinnati's not safe. Let's also remember their strength of schedule is still craptacular. And somehow or another, if the committee drops Notre Dame's rank because of their recent coaching change, that hurts Cincinnati.
Jesus,
Boom.
I didn't even think about that, which
there,
I guess you can't necessarily put it past them.
I have been telling you for weeks. Granted, like, I want to talk to you off the air about having a segment tracking the things that I've gotten right and I've gotten wrong. Because we track it for EJ, we won't have the first one. But but you know,
That is a disgusting act.
So, but don't put too much faith in the committee. Anyways, with all of the above aside, Notre Dame at 6 is kind of crazy. I don't know that I can sign off on that yet as something that I think should happen. But by the same token, if we're putting Michigan in the top 4 today and Ohio State lost to them, how are they not 6 is what I ask. And then I ask myself that same question again.
I mean, they lost to Oregon, right?
Exactly. Well, no, Oregon, that. And give me again, what's their meaningful win? Let me help you. No. Okay. So with that, the reason why I didn't give you too much crap about Notre Dame at 6 is simply because of the way they're set up. That's kind of how it has to happen. I'm not proud of it, but hey, listen, as many crazy things have gone on this season, cool. You know.
Right, and had a lot of the pieces above them not lost and fallen out, I don't think Notre Dame is a top 16. I don't think Notre Dame is in the discussion for a potential playoff, depending on what happens this weekend, if other things don't crumble around them the rest of this year. Because yes, they're 11-1, but like when your signature win is Wisconsin, you know,
and you had plenty of games that made you say, "Holy Toledo!" I was going to get that in there, bro. You knew.
I knew. I mean, naturally.
I do have Oklahoma State 5th because I want to see how that conference championship turns out. I want them to go to work on Baylor to see if there's any credibility here, and walloping the number 8 seed team would give me something to think about to crack them into the top 4. Until then, still got Bama. Okay, sorry, deal with it. Conference championship obviously will set their fate as well. If they win the SEC, they belong.
Sure,
Facts
absolutely.
of the case. And so does Georgia. Georgia's already won. Spoiler
Georgia's
alert.
in either way.
Yeah,
Georgia. No matter what happens Saturday, Georgia is in the Final Four this year, without question.
Right. Yeah, from this point on, especially, I 100% agree. And for my money, they should not be below 3.
I agree with that as well.
Okay. Bama at 4, Cincy at 3. I'm still shocked to this day. If we were doing that segment I was talking about earlier, Kyle was wrong about the committee doing what they were doing with Cincinnati. Would be a thing. But also I would be right in the sense that they are giving credibility to my tinfoil hat conspiracy about them picking this year to let Cincy in to be the perfect way to exclude them in perpetuity. We'll get more into that next week when it actually happens.
Correct.
It actually happens.
Yeah, because by the time we're on the air next week, the rankings will come out on Sunday. We'll know what the matchups are, and we'll see that, and we'll be able to analyze it next
we're
week.
waiting for those games in January.
Yes.
Of course, you can probably guess who's in the number 2 spot already. Your wife is a very happy lady for it, and I say God bless her. And of course, we already mentioned Georgia as a spoiler alert. And listen, the reason why I have Michigan at 2 is because they have ample opportunity to screw it up. And there's a lot of teams that have gotten to number 2 and became number 2 later on. Not to mention any names, Iowa.
I'll say there's a team Michigan's playing this weekend that was once number 2.
You know, and what I'm prepared for is that if Iowa does win, that they'll be in the playoff because the chairman is their AD. Anyways, that's my top 6.
Before we get to this weekend slate of games, you know, there was the 3 biggest games in college football this weekend. Obviously, Michigan defeating Ohio
which there were
State.
many, by the way.
There was. Michigan defeating Ohio State, Oklahoma State defeating Oklahoma, and Alabama surviving in the new overtime format against Auburn. To you, Kyle, which game taught us more, and about whom did it teach us more?
Oklahoma State. Period. Okay.
Okay.
And granted, if you think I am influenced by the biggest mullet in the nation, so be it. It's a wonderful thing to behold, and I say God bless it. But nobody outside of Stillwater.
Come after me.
I am over 40. Just saying.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Such a great clip. Anyways, the belief in that team, and they're actually playing some defense. Figure that out, huh?
They are. The over-under number on the Big 12 title game, which we'll get here momentarily, surprised me. And when I look back at their game earlier this season, it may not be as surprising as you think.
But I say all the above to say, if Baylor has a history of anything, it's losing when they have an opportunity. Again, I am an alumnus of one such Fiesta Bowl back in 2013. So, you know, props to Baylor for doing what they did do this year. Whether they win or lose this conference championship, it's a good game for them. But I learned more about Oklahoma State this week than I did anything else, right? We knew Ohio State was going to have problems in a way they hadn't before. You didn't think 15 points worth, but I think that was more kind of, you know, little brother being hyped up kind of thing. I really think, if anything, Michigan is rife for a letdown game. They have done this sort of thing before, right?
A lot of teams have.
And listen, you're trying to put me in a place and admit I like pineapple pizza when I don't, and put me in a place where I'm going to go after Alabama for struggling in the Iron Bowl. Have we forgotten already the kick 6? Listen, the Iron Bowl is a thing with history like no other, okay? And it's crazy. Say I'm biased if you want about me currently covering Coach Malzahn, but, you know, for me, I knew the least about Oklahoma State going in. I always kind of thought they might be a little disrespected, and they convinced me that they were.
That's fair. I mean, I think we learned a bit about a Ryan Day-led Ohio State team and program. But I think we learned a lot.
Yeah, how many running yards, right? Anyways.
I think we learned a lot about Michigan, and the thing I've said it about Brian Kelly. I've said it about Jim Harbaugh in Michigan prior to this year, but like the value in not changing leadership at your program just because it seems like a great idea on the surface. Actually looking below the surface and going, something's happening here. Maybe there's a couple pieces that need to be reshuffled. And they did that. You know, they restructured his deal. He took a pay cut, actually. When we're sitting here talking about coaches letting, bank trucks roll up to their house.
Buying houses.
He takes a pay cut, changes his entire staff, kind of goes back to his roots, and now he went from unranked to start the year. Again, preseason rankings are what they are. Unranked to start the year, number 2 team in the country going into championship weekend. And all year, sans a Michigan State game that they beat themselves in the fourth quarter. There was points this year, Nebraska, Penn State, a couple of points probably this past weekend, where in years past may have ended up a whole lot differently. This year seems a little bit different. I think we learned a hell of a lot about the Michigan Wolverines. Now, can't let up going into this weekend, but learned a lot.
I'm forced to make one more point. As often as I take giant bombastic dumps upon the CFB committee, I am forced to compelled to point out something that I kind of like that they did before and have proven themselves right. Even though I hate the statement used by the chairman of the committee when he said, let's set watching the games aside a minute. They did exactly what they're supposed to do in ranking a Michigan the way that they did and have been proven absolutely vindicated and correct on the field. If he came on the air on the ESPN show, which he could get away with doing because of monopoly in television sport, dropped his junk on the table and said, suck it, that would be warranted.
Certainly. All right. Let's look to this weekend, a full slate of playoff football. Obviously, for these purposes, we're using the AP rankings because college football playoff rankings don't come out until tomorrow. We start in Conference USA because, yes, small conferences matter too. Western Kentucky, a 1.5 point road favorite at UTSA. 72 is your over-under this one Friday, 7 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. UTSA, we're ranked most of the year. Was kind of a cool Cinderella story. I'm going to take them to cover that 1.5, get the win. And any 72, I don't know a lot about these teams, but I'm going to go over just because why the hell not?
I mean, listen, your Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky have been representatives in the Conference USA for some time. I've covered them at least once, and I think more than once in the Cure Bowl. They're guys that regularly have a good squad. Not necessarily always one that's explosive, but ones that play tough football. And UTSA is going to come out pissed next week, I would imagine, because it's that situation where they have the one last thing to play for other than undefeated, and the gloves are off. It's time to have fun and go be like the Roadrunner and say, meep, right over the hilltop. I got UTSA here. 72 is a lot of points. So just because of my general reserved nature and not being a degenerate like our good friend EJ, I'm going to say under.
All right, let's go to the Pac-12. Number 10, Oregon versus number 14, Utah. They're a 2.5 point favorite. Obviously, we saw this result just a couple weeks ago. 60 is your over-under Friday night, 8 o'clock on ABC from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Look, I saw you. This one's quick and easy. I saw Utah blow the doors off Oregon a couple weeks ago. No reason to think they won't do the same. And I will take the under because I think the under would have hit in that one, the previous one as well. Again, no reason to think anything differently. This is recency bias here.
One of the toughest things to do in single elimination team sport is beat a team single time when something, or beat a team a second time when something like this is on the line. And the Jacksonville Jaguars were once asked to do it a third time when the Titans were in a game that they shouldn't have even participated in because that was a forward pass and Buffalo won that game. Anyways, yes, still bitter. Can't you tell? Anyways, I say all the above to say these are two of the fakest teams in the nation and have been for some time, and I believe in neither of them. And I'm forced to pick one to win because they're playing each other. And because recency bias, Utah will do the same, and they don't play defense out there anyway. Over as well, Jim. You can get the Ron Jeremy Award for this game because you nailed it.
My board is on a delay tonight, so this is going to hit me.
But they are who we thought they were.
There we go.
There we go.
Big 12, number 9, Baylor versus number 5, Oklahoma State. 5-point favorite for the Cowboys. This is the number. I just said it, 46.5. But if you look back to when they played earlier this year, it was a 24-14 finals. That's 38 points if you're doing math at home. Saturday at noon on ABC from AT&T Stadium. The probably the most realistic way, at least in my opinion, if Notre Dame would find itself into a playoff, which I don't want them to, as I've been saying for weeks.
I don't want them to, but I'll sure cheer for it.
Is if Baylor wins on Saturday in Arlington. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this Oklahoma State team is too good. They're going to get the win, and I will take the under because of Oklahoma State's, defense.
I like what you did there, but there's a reason that score is already that low anyway, and that's because of their defense. But damn, at the end of the day, it's still Big 12. I got the over just because the number's so low. That all being said, it's going to be, I think, of the games out there, Jim, got to tell you, I believe this one may be, in fact, the most difficult to call.
Okay.
As it stands, right? I mean, I'm more confident in UTSA and the Hilltoppers, and I haven't watched a single down of Hilltopper football this season. Yeah. Whatever version you like. That's right. Dave Chappelle drops. I said it. Yeah, but for me, I will unleash my bias. The mullet will prevail.
All right. Then we go to the MAC. Kent State is a 3-point favorite versus Northern Illinois. 72.5 is your over-under number on this one. Saturday at noon on ESPN from Ford Field. I'll take Kent State. I'll take the favorite. I'll go under. I already went over 72 points on one pick. I'm not going to do it on the second one.
You had to do the MAC after the Big 12, what might be the most compelling game. And now I'm forced to get my Peter Griffin. Who the hell cares? But that being said, I'm going to go Northern Illinois just to make it interesting and say that and give Jim an opportunity to say,
oh my God, who the hell cares?
Oh, snap.
I knew I had it. I just had to find it.
That's what she said. Anyway, so at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Northern Illinois just to make something compelling. So Jim can say I was right, or Jim would say of himself, I was right, even though he's so often saying that I was right. It's so meta.
Mountain West, Utah State at number 19, San Diego State, 6.5-point home favorite in this one. This one at San Diego State, 50.5. Saturday, 3:00 on Fox. Why don't we have an upset here? I'll go Utah State to cover and win, and I'll go over 50.5.
That's adorable. I got San Diego State because simply Utah State gives me nothing to believe in. And Jim just wanted to take my example and be humble. If I'm letting you win, you don't show humility. That's not how this works.
I'm not good at these things. All right, Sun Belt. Appalachian State they're a 3-point road favorite at number 20. Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, 52.5 is your number. Saturday, 3:30 on ESPN. I'm taking Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, because if I pick Appalachian State in this house, I'm probably sleeping on the couch, and I will take the under. Why not?
Isn't Napier allegedly going to Florida? And in that alone, that's the only way I'm picking against a Raging Cajun. So, by the way, Napier, good coach. Seen his work more than once at the Kira Bowl. Always fun to watch that team play in general. You're nodding your head, Jim.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was reading something and then I was just nodding because if we know we're both married, we know if we're not paying attention, we just nod.
Oh no, I wish I was graced with that skill. Anyways, no, I would say, as I quickly and try to gracefully pick to see if Bill Napier is okay. No, and I'm incorrect. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that Florida is in the market. No, they aren't. They're hiring. They've hired Billy Napier as their coach. So
there we go.
Yeah. So I'm wrong about that, but I'm going to be right in picking against the Raging Cajuns because this is an issue for a team performing in this situation.
Certainly. Yeah, that's a great point. All right. Then we go. Now we get to the big one. Number 1, Georgia, 7.5-point favorite versus number 4, Alabama, 50 is your over-under. Saturday, 4 o'clock on CBS from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. I think it's Georgia. I think it's I'm going at least 2 touchdowns. I just think Georgia is that good. I'm not trying. We know what Nick Saban can do. We know how Nick Saban can get teams prepared for big games. We know what Georgia can do.
Do we?
In some big game situations, usually.
Thank you.
I don't see it. I don't see it. And I was looking over like both teams' schedules, and I'm looking at Georgia's schedule, and I'm like, are they really this good? Are they really this good? And I don't know. I don't see a way Alabama makes it close. I just don't. Give me Georgia. Give me Georgia plus. 50 feels like a pretty good number there. I'm going to go probably a slight over, though.
Yeah, when in doubt, always pick the over because math, or at least probability. Here's the thing. I would personally spread this game 10 points, but I'm not a degenerate, so I don't really know how this works. But what I can tell you is this. I feel like Alabama is going to score first.
Okay.
Alabama probably represents the most difficult team they will play all season, regardless of what you say, of whether they're not a good Alabama team as far as Alabama teams go, or whether they're the best Alabama team of all time, as EJ predicted months back. What I will say, though, is that's what will keep it within the spread and within the cover. I'm with you on the over. I think Georgia wins the football game, but I think it's going to be closer than everybody thinks. Just for the simple fact that Georgia is Georgia and has done Georgia things in the past, and Nick Saban is Nick effing Saban. So, I mean, this is as awkward as trying to bet against Bill Belichick and implicating that he couldn't do any good without Tom Brady.
It's my quarterback.
No, that's EJ's quarterback.
That is EJ's quarterback. All right. The AAC, number 16, Houston at number 3. Cincinnati, a 10.5 point home favorite. 54 is your over-under. 4 o'clock on ABC. So this is what it comes down to. When Cincinnati beat Notre Dame, I said the path is there. With all the craziness that had already begun in college football by that point. And dear God, it got even crazier over the last month and a half of the season. But I said all Cincinnati has to do is do their job. With everything that was getting crazy, I thought all they have to do is do their job. And here they are. I don't think there's a chance in hell they slip up this weekend. I think this team is the only way they slip up is sometime between now and Saturday at 4 o'clock Eastern time. Luke Fickell is announced as the new head coach at the University of Notre Dame. To me, that's the only way that Cincinnati loses the eyes on the prize.
And I'm glad you referenced history there, because at some point UCF had taken a hit in 2017 when it was announced that Scott Frost, when I say when it was during the conference championship that Scott Frost was announced that he would not be returning to UCF the next year. Then they looked really stupid when Scott Frost stayed on to coach the final game and they beat Auburn.
Right.
Throwing it out there.
But yeah, Cincinnati plus, and I'll take the over in this one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, even if for some reason during the game, God forbid, if Desmond Ridder somehow gets knocked out of the game, I'm not asking for it. And if I could say whatever I could say about me thinking he's a bit overrated as a quarterback while he's still a good college football player, that defense is ridiculous, and their running back forward is just unbelievably good. Houston, we have a problem. You're going to get spanked.
Yes. 100%.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
How
come you didn't have that in your rundown? Step your game up, niece. Goodness. Jesus, Lord, that's an easy one.
The conference that probably matters the least out of all of these that we were talking about is the ACC, number 17 Pitt Be number 17 Pitt,
That is a disgusting act.
a 3-point favorite versus number 18 Wake Forest. Also 72.5. This one Saturday, 8 o'clock on ABC from Bank of America Stadium. Wait.
Do it.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
I was hoping you would do that. I was sending the telepathic vibes. Booyah.
Just because my third cousin is a Pitt fan, I'll go Pitt plus over, because why not score 130 points in this game, Kyle?
I mean, listen, not for nothing. This Pitt team has a history of competing against teams they have no business beating, even taking some of them to triple overtime.
Rip.
And not to mention Wake Forest. I don't know what just happened. Wake Forest is about to get woke. I said it, and go broke. Pitt's going to win this one. I don't think it's going to be too close. And for those of us who don't care, this is not the game I'm watching.
If we're talking about games this Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern time, Pitt Wake Forest ain't being on the TV. I'm going to tell you that right now. Because we'll be watching the Big Ten championship game. Number 2 Michigan, a 10.5 point favorite versus number 15 Iowa. 43.5 is your over under on this one. 8 o'clock on Fox from Lucas Oil Stadium. Actually, this is pretty cool. My wife just sent me this. Jim Harbaugh announced on the this evening on Inside Michigan Football Radio Show, any bonus money he earns this season will be redirected to Michigan's athletic department to pay employees who had their pay cut during the pandemic.
Oh, snap.
That could be upwards of $3.475 million. So, well, like she sends me this text. I just see like a Harbaugh. I'm like,
God.
Like, did Notre Dame hire Jim Harbaugh? Like,
you should be so effing lucky.
My God, like, I'd be scared.
Leave out for a minute. Leave out for a minute the football implications, the peace and unity that could take place in your house with the former Michigan coach coaching your Fighting Irish.
No, I don't think it'd be good.
So much for wishful thinking, damn it.
But certainly there should be no surprise by this. I'm taking Michigan. I'm taking Michigan plus. Really, there should be no reason why the Michigan Wolverines should not win this weekend. If we're being honest, there should be no reason. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that crazier things haven't happened in college football.
More Michigan things than that have happened.
Sure. It should not happen. I'm not predicting it to happen. Michigan plus. I'm 43.5. Michigan scored how many points this weekend against Ohio State? I'm going to go over just because I think Michigan could score more than 40 points against Iowa. But Michigan plus.
So, James,
yes.
This is Dr. Evil. I have some questions for you.
Yes.
Dr. Evil was wondering if Iowa is known as the Cyclones.
They are not.
They are not. That's Iowa State.
That's Iowa State.
Okay. See what I did there? Because if they were the Cyclones, James, you know what I would say?
What's that?
They're going to be pretty weak Cyclones because they'll fail to blow the cover.
Oh.
Thank you. No, yeah, absolutely. Listen, your Hawkeyes, no. Just plain no. And no on top of it. The fact we're having this conversation is just a proof of how much of a down year it's been in the Big Ten. Usually a conference I at least somewhat respect once they wised up and started rating the SEC for coaches. But yeah, I got listen, tell your wife to rejoice. I got them big. I think they cover, and I'm taking the over as well.
All right, very good. Now we go to the National Football League. We've been talking about coaches already enough tonight with college football. So, when this time of year, people start talking about, playoff scenarios and
Playoff?
I do have that on here.
Playoffs? Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
No, you have the whole thing. I like it.
Playoff scenarios and MVP and things like that, and all fair discussions. But I thought another part of the discussion that inevitably comes up, and there's no reason to bring it up in college football, because I think the man in blue should without question be the coach of the year in college football. But looking at the NFL, I feel like there's three options to pick from as we're sitting here closing out week number 12. Cliff Kingsbury. I would put Jim Harbaugh on the list, and I would put Bill Belichick on the list.
No love for anybody in Cincinnati?
Oh, that's a good point. See,
Yeah.
this is why you're here.
You've hated on Cincinnati all damn season, almost the way that EJ hates on the 49ers, which in this case this year I can see on hating on the 49ers. You were trying to force feed me the Bears weeks ago when you were trying to shut down the Chiefs. And what did I tell you, Jim? What team did I tell you?
You said something about the Bengals, I believe.
Damn right I did.
Look,
so
I don't dislike the Bengals.
No, that was mostly theatrics for radio purposes, sir. I know you weren't necessarily against them. As a matter of fact, at the time when I mentioned the Bengals, you were kind of like, meh.
Yeah, I felt like they could have been like that week, if I remember correctly. I feel like them or the Bears was kind of a toss-up to me at 10. Certainly not the Chiefs, EJ Christian.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. You'll appreciate this. I don't know if you heard it when I was with him on the Earnestly Speaking podcast, Football is Awesome edition, that comes out every week, featuring me and other and Zach the Degenerate, talking about various betting things. See, it's not always just all about me. That's how I know I'm the greatest. I'm the most humble guy in the room. Anyways,
look at me, I'm pretty.
He asked me if the Chiefs were back, and I said, well, is he like Michael Vick with the Eagles when he came out of prison back, or is he like Texas and Miami back? So I still think the Chiefs are kind of Texas or Miami back at this point. You beat the Cowboys again, whose biggest moment of the season is still a moral victory. No offense, Jim.
None taken at this point. I mean, the argument in the beginning of the season, when this team looked a whole hell of a lot different, was you went out to LA the next week and beat up on the Chargers, which now we've kind of proven to be a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to completely abandon ship, but if you would force me to put that into the Kyle is wrong segment, I would accept it. I would take it like a man.
And it's do the Chiefs look better than they did a month ago? Sure. but right again, I don't know what that means yet.
Nobody does.
We'll find out eventually.
Right.
And if they win their division, which at this point they should, we'll find out when they get into the postseason.
Pop quiz, Jim Neese. I hadn't thought of this till you just said it. We know who the weakest division in football is. No offense. Who is the next weakest? Is it the AFC South, or is it the AFC West, or is it the NFC North? But the fact I have to pose that question, Jim,
is the NFC East really the worst? Well,
bruh.
I mean, yes. Okay. No, because I'm just, if you're looking at the East versus the North, the top team, yes, Green Bay better than the Cowboys. Nobody's debating that. Second place, Philly 5-7, Minnesota 5-6. Third place, Washington 4-6 with tonight still pending. Chicago 4-7. Last place, Giants 4-7, Lions 0-10. 10-1.
If your defense is the Lions skew it, I might back you, but also I would need to reiterate and examine scheduling, because here's what I know: the NFC North plays the NFC West this year.
Fair. And yes, 10-1. The Lions, and no, EJ, I'm not going to use the F word, so settle down. The Lions have like, you always feel bad for them because like they get so close. It's like really adorable. It's like it's like the State Farm commercial when the guy's dangling the dollar bill. It's like, oh, you almost had it.
You almost had it there,
and like that's kind of where the Lions have been.
It's interesting. A team coached by a guy known as Man Campbell, you could also refer to as adorable. Isn't that unfortunate?
Right? Yeah, I don't know, man. So like, we'll call the NFC East the worst. Okay, I'll call it. I'll be willing to call it.
There's still time for your Cowboys to sputter further out of control. I'll leave it at that.
Good God, that you ain't kidding. Like, who would have thought that I would have been thanking the New York Giants for potentially saving us? But, man, the second worst, the AFC South, you got Tennessee 8-4, Indy 6-6, and then you got 2-9 teams.
Mm-hmm.
The West,
but also the AFC South plays the NFC West.
Fair. The AFC West. Now, all teams in the AFC West are above 500,
right?
But that's an ugly 500.
The
7-4,
East,
6-5, 6-5, 6-5.
The AFC East and the NFC. No, AFC, because I know they played the Jets. That the Broncos played the Jets. They also played the Jags. I'm trying to remember the schedule quickly off the top of my head. The Chiefs do not come to Jacksonville. So no, that's not something that happened. Okay. So that means the AFC East is the division that's the counterpart that they're playing in the West. So that means the Chiefs have had games against the Jets, or will have games against the Jets and the Bills as well, right?
Correct.
So,
yeah. So
and Miami, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the East isn't great, but they're not that bad. If I went for a second worst division, I would probably still go with the AFC South.
Me too.
Overall, because Tennessee's fraudulent as hell. We've seen that now.
Yeah.
But to the point, Coach of the Year, like a bad loss to Carolina aside, I think what Kingsbury's doing with Arizona in that division, and with injuries and all the different things that come up. I mean, you lost to the Packers by 3, and you lost. You had that bad loss to the Panthers, but otherwise, you're going through a challenging division, a tough schedule. And yeah, I mean, you're doing it. And so to me, Kingsbury, to me, has to be the Coach of the Year at this point. I think a close number 2, though, is arguably the best coach we've ever seen in Bill Belichick. What he's doing with the Patriots this year, and with a rookie quarterback and everything, is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, like, Belichick's got to be in the convo. Kingsbury's got to be in the combo. I'm not prepared to rule out what's gone on with Cincy or even Baltimore yet.
Correct.
Right? Say what you will. And by the way, Lamar Jackson's still the MVP, though, despite what some people on this panel might think. Yeah, he threw 3 interceptions and still threw the pass that decided that football game.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
My text last night wasn't saying that Lamar Jackson should not be the
here we
MVP,
go.
But EJ, I think what last week on His Football Is Awesome said it was Lamar Jackson with a bullet, and I'm like, Jonathan Taylor would like a word.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor's entered the chat.
It's not a lock. That was my only point.
And Jonathan Taylor is the best conversation there, right? Too. Which, like, by the way, if somehow the Colts, they won't, but if somehow the Colts fight their way back into it and win that division somehow, because who knows, the Titans could continue to plummet, right? Do we not have? Is it Frank Reich there? I keep trying to remember.
Yeah, Frank Reich's still there.
How do we have Frank Reich winning his second Coach of the Year? Possibly.
And I mean, So the Colts have the Texans this week, then a bye. Then it gets a little rough. You come out of a bye playing New England and Arizona.
So if they get through that and find a way to win the
and end up
division,
winning the division, that's a Frank Reich would like a word.
Frank Reich has entered the chat. Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
So I like that we're having the conversation and that we're lining up scenarios and paths to glory. That I'm reminding you that the Bengals deserve more respect than you continually give them with your snubbing. Not Stefanski, I'm sorry, that's Cleveland's guy. But like, there's much more going on in the, I'll put it this way. There's much more going on in the AFC North than the Browns and anything Stefanski's doing, right? You know, I think you got to give John Harbaugh a shot with all the injuries, with this wacky year. Like, honestly, and I know that the Ravens have had missteps and lost games that perhaps they shouldn't have, right?
Correct.
But A, who hasn't, and B, I could argue, generally speaking, the Ravens haven't looked that bad doing it. Now, Zach Taylor has a loss to the Jets. It's already going to be beaten over the head against me. I get it. Also has an overtime game against Aaron Charlotte Rodgers. So I think those two kind of cancel, right? It's like you mentioned a bad game against the Panthers with Kingsbury. I think trashing McVay and the Rams and possibly showing the rest of the league how to do it, should be put in his credit to balance that out, right?
That's fair. Absolutely. And there's always going to be a bad game somewhere. Very, very rarely does a team go undefeated in a regular season or even one loss in a regular season. Bad games are going to happen. You can't overreact to bad games. It's irrelevant, especially in an NFL season the way this one is going.
You can't overreact to bad games, Ernest.
And you also have to pick up on trends like the Kansas City Chiefs when they're not that good, Ernest. All right.
And another one that still kind of throws me off, Ernest, is the Niners winning twice in dominating fashion. And yes, I know that the Vikings game was only by a score, but at the end of the day, the only reason why it was that close was because of a special teams touchdown return. So there's that. I think if the Niners find a way to do some silly things and make it somehow, I don't think they can or will win the division. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, but I think the Cardinals are, yes, mathematically it's not locked up, but
right.
You're coming out of a late season bye healthy with that team. I think I have a hard time seeing them losing their grip.
Right, exactly. And the Niners are already three games out. But they're tied because they're on the head-to-head. So it would be on the division, which at this point, the best that the Niners can do is hope that the Cardinals basically lose out. And yeah, the Cardinals have all the tie breaks over the Niners. The Niners aren't going to do it. And it's looking pretty damn bad for the Rams now too, frankly. I mean, they're 2 games down and are in trouble in all things tiebreaker.
Well, let's look at that, because that's kind of the last that's kind of the last thing I was looking at is we're getting to this point of the season where, theoretically speaking, anyhow, things should start to become clearer, and we should start to kind of see, okay, these are the teams that are definitely in, these are the teams that should get in, and these are the teams that are fighting for the last scrap. So let's start in the NFC, because we're already kind of there to begin with. And so I've broken it up this way, that there's obviously the teams that are the current division leaders. There's the teams that are the current wild card. And then there's the teams that, to quote the great Bob Uecker, are just a bit outside.
They tried the corner and missed.
So let's look at the NFC. Like, will these positions hold? That's kind of the question I'm looking at. Like, will these positions hold? Will somebody make a move? Arizona's sitting atop the NFC West at 9-2. I don't see them losing their grip on that division.
Right, because at worst they're 2 games ahead, and I looked at the division and conference records. They are dominant in the tiebreak, right? Every other team in the division only has 1 conference win currently. The best the Niners can do is split, and the Rams have the ability to go 4-2, I think, which I believe would mean they would have to win a Cardinals rematch. I'm not looking at the schedule, but I think that's what it comes down to. All those incredibly difficult. I've had the Cardinals locked up for a few weeks now when I saw Colt effing McCoy, which, by the way, when you were breaking down why Cliff Kingsbury was a Coach of the Year candidate, you didn't need that preamble. As awesome as it was and as much as the audience liked listening to it, you could have just said Colt McCoy and moved on.
Exactly.
You know.
Green Bay Packers 9-3, top of the NFC North. The easy lock. Minnesota not catching them. They're what, 3 games behind? They're not making.
Yeah, what is it? They're 3 games behind. Or no, is it 3 because math? Hold on. Yeah, they're actually 3.5 games behind.
Yeah, they're not catching.
And yeah, the division record, they're down, and the conference record, they're in trouble too. Yeah. The Packers have as many conference wins as the Vikings currently have conference games played.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big no from them, dog. So yeah, and I think honestly, I mentioned EJ and I last week mentioned that this game was wicked important for the Niners and the Vikings, and the Niners prevailed, and it's hurting the Vikings really bad. I'm pretty sure not only did the Packers seal their fate in winning that division, I think the Vikings are pretty hurting for the playoffs based on tiebreakers.
I mean, they're currently in the wild card, but we'll get there. Buccaneers 8-3, sitting atop the NFC South. Looking at it, Falcons are the next closest at 5-6. The Saints are at 5-6 and had Taysom Hill taking starting reps this week. You know, the Bucs have been beat up. They haven't quite looked as dominant as we expected them to. But Gronk is back and looked like Gronk this week. The defense looked a little bit better. You would expect Antonio Brown back by the playoffs. Buccaneers aren't losing this spot.
I can say this, everything you just said, by asking one question, Jim. Who's the second best quarterback in the NFC South currently? Is it Matt Ryan?
Is it? Yeah, Andrew, even as a Vikings fan, knows the Vikings are not catching up to Green Bay. Yeah, is there even a second best quarterback in the NFC South?
Ooh, that's even more harsh than what I said.
That's the real question. It's either Simeon or Hill or Ian Book. Hell, let's throw him into the mix.
And side note, the correct pronunciation is fraud cons.
The fraud cons, yes.
Fraud cons. Who even had a chance to go into overtime against the Jacksonville Jaguars last week.
Cam Newton told us he was back, and then he was back on the bench this week. So it's
hey.
I'm sorry. All right. NFC East. Dallas Cowboys 7-4. Thank you, New York Giants, for keeping the Eagles 3 games behind. As bad as the Cowboys are right now, as bad as the COVID situation is with the Dallas Cowboys right now, Mike McCarthy out this week with COVID. The Cowboys, the difference in their 2 schedules basically is the Cowboys play the Cardinals once, so there's a loss. That still puts you 2 games up because the rest of it, I think, is divisional matchups like the Eagles have. I just don't think there's enough there for the Eagles to make the ground to win the division. So I'm going to say Dallas holds. I think your 4 division leaders in the NFC hold.
The 4 divisions in the NFC hold, yes. Mostly because the South is a garbage division.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, Tom Brady taking advantage of a crappy division. We've never seen that before, but Belichick's not the reason. Sorry, I got some facts stuck in my throat. I should.
Let's look at the wild card teams. The current number 1 wild card in the NFC is a team that is crumbling right now, and that is the 7-4 Los Angeles Rams. Looking at the rest of the teams that are alive in the NFC, I think the Rams will still finish as a wild card team. I do not think they finish as the wild card 1, however.
So yeah, you can't lock in the 5 seed because one of the teams right below them is one of the teams that started this recent run by slapping them as if Sean McVay owed them money in the 49ers. And listen, call me a homer all you want. There's plenty of homerism that isn't mine on this show. We'll be right up there, especially since EJ has 14 teams. But but even I have been proven wrong by my own team. I had ruled them out of the playoff race 2 weeks ago, and here these mother bleepers come.
They look good, man. They look good, and they
don't look great. But
they don't look great. But you know, they look. The current number 3 wildcard team in the NFC is below 500. So the Niners are definitely above the bar. If that's the bar, they're above the bar.
That's a good point, Jim. Well done.
So I'm going to say that, you know, no surprise there. I think the Niners hold a wild card spot. I think they probably move up potentially to the wild card 1 spot. Then let's look at the 5 and 6 Minnesota Vikings. You know, and like this is where it gets really kind of silly, because all of this team, who's currently a wild card team, and the team sitting just outside, all of these teams are not good. Like, there's going to be a real bad NFC team that makes the playoffs. Looking at the rest of, like, I guess I'll keep the Vikings in. If anything, Philly catches them, because I don't, and this will help me speed up the just a bit outside. Carolina's not catching them, especially with the news that Christian McCaffrey's played his last snap of the year.
Correct.
The Saints aren't catching them. The Falcons aren't catching them. So those 3 teams are not going to make the playoffs. If anybody's going to catch the Vikings and dethrone them out of a wild card 3 spot, it'll be the Eagles. And I think it's plausible.
I'm not so prepared, sir. The reason why I hated this 7th spot, exactly. The Falcons do have 2 tough games on the schedule. Here are some others. The Saints, the Lions, the Panthers. Those are winnable games, and enough to propel them to 8, right?
Okay.
8 and 9 is a playoff spot potentially in this conference right now today with these teams. And then we have to listen to Danny Thompson. They have a losing record. Whatever, playoffs, baby. Woo! You know, shout out to Danny Thompson. So, yeah, I can't rule out the Falcons yet simply because everybody else is too consistent or too bad. I kind of like what Jalen Hurts is doing, but after all, he still is a young starter on a team that isn't super great right now.
No, but this is where I'm looking at. So they just got done playing the Giants.
Right.
They play the Jets, then they have a bye. Then they play Washington, the Giants, Washington, and the Cowboys.
I heard a bunch of losable games there.
I also heard a bunch of winnable games.
Well, that's because it's in your division, which is
correct.
Awful.
And even with the Cowboys, by the time you get to week 18, the Cowboys are probably going to be locked into like a 4 spot.
Now, that's fair. That's
so
fair.
Why are the Cowboys going to risk any more injury in what has already been kind of a nightmare year? Get healthy, take a late season bye week in theory, and get ready for a playoff game. The Vikings, the rest of the way, have Detroit, which is a win pretty much, and then you have Pittsburgh, Chicago, but then you have the Rams and Packers before you finish with Chicago. So, like, I just think there's more losable games for Minnesota. You know what I mean? That's why I have, if anybody's catching them, it'll be Philly, because there's just more losable games for Minnesota when I'm looking at the schedules. Like, I'm not saying it's a lock, because, you know, the Eagles had a great opportunity this week against a bad Giants team. They knew the Cowboys lost. You know you're playing a bad Giants team, and you score 7 points and you lose to the Giants. Like, so that's why I'm not saying the Eagles are definitely going to catch them, but they have potential to.
I like the Falcons more than I like the Eagles. If I'm forced to pick a bird, that's the one I'll flick.
Well, and the Falcons, especially if Cordero Patterson stays healthy,
right?
The fantasy wizard, thank you, fantasy gods. You know, they at least have a pulse there. All right, let's move to the AFC. AFC North and AFC leaders right now are the 8-3 Baltimore Ravens.
I'm sorry, who?
The Baltimore Ravens.
No kidding.
I know,
Wow.
right? Like you would think.
Who would have predicted something like that?
I mean, I know like some amongst us would put them at 9 in their power rankings, but
wow, I was so busy giving myself props that I completely forgot that transgression happened. Thank you, Jim.
Like the Chiefs were 5, I believe, on that list, but the Ravens were 9. Anyway, Ravens are going to be a playoff team. Lock that up.
I'll agree.
Of
course I'll agree.
Of course. Now the question is, do they hold the division lead? I got to look over the rest of their schedule.
Not convincing enough. It's one game right there right now, sir. So it's one game.
So now you have play at Pittsburgh, at Cleveland. You host the Packers. You go to Cincy.
Right.
And then you have the Rams, and then you close the season with the Rams and the Steelers at home. That's not an easy road.
No, it's not. And I'd also point out that currently, though most of it is because of half games being amassed, so to speak, the Bengals are full 2 half wins up because they have 3 wins playing 4 games, while the Ravens are currently 1-1. So, and one of those games, by the way, being against the Bengals at home where they got exploded, right?
The Bengals schedule, Chargers, Niners, Broncos, Ravens, Chiefs, Browns. That's an easier road than the Ravens.
Even though it's still pretty damn tough.
It's not easy. It's easier. I'll say the Ravens hold. I'll say the Ravens will hold off the Bengals. Give him a little bit more of that tough game experience. I say they hold and keep the division.
Yeah, and listen, now you know why I'm talking about John Harbaugh and Zach Taylor both as coach of the year candidates, right? I mean, for me, it's who wins this division right now as to who I would cast my vote to. And as much as I like Kingsbury, I would have to think really hard about which of these guys I like better. Here's what I know. The Ravens got hit harder by injury before the first snap of the ball. At least Kyler Murray was good for half the season before he had to put in Colt McCoy. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. Also, this being the case, please tell me that with a bullet, and I don't care about Jonathan Taylor because, well, he gets to play the Jags twice.
And the Texans.
And the Texans. Thank you, sir. Oh, but Kyle, the Ravens get the Browns twice and the Steelers twice. Yeah, but
still tougher than the Jags and Texans.
Thank you. Right.
We can take our shots at the Browns and we can take our shots at the Steelers, and Lord knows I will. But still better than the bottom 2 in the AFC South.
I mean, listen, if he weren't an anti-vaxxer, when Jim talks about the Steelers, you might as well have Little John playing in the background. Shot. Anyways, which, by the way, Jim, the irony that an anti-vaxxer is somebody who actually literally has a song called Shots. I can't deal with that. Anyways,
is irony.
But yeah, no, I think I'm going to do what I've done in the past. I will call the Ravens and Bengals as locks for the playoffs, but don't ask me to call that division yet. That being said, I predicted the Ravens. What do you think I'm going to say?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, spoiler alert, the Bengals is the number 1 wild card team right now. I think they're a lock for the division or for the playoffs as well. Okay. Absolutely. So we'll get that one out of the way. New England Patriots, 8-4, sitting atop the AFC East. Feels like we've been here before. And I think I'm going to hold them to this spot. As much as it is about them and what they're doing, it's also about what the Bills are doing or not doing, depending how you're looking at it. But I don't see the Bills as being able to recover and take back that division from this Patriots team. So I'll keep the Patriots as a division champion.
For me, wow. Listen, you got some big old round hairy cojones on that one, Chief. I am not prepared to be that brave. I know that the Bills have had some wild moments this season, but I cannot share in that confidence, man.
I mean, they play twice in the next 4 weeks, so we're going to find out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the part of it I
quick.
love, is it won't be so much injuries or anything, because everything and all of that is so close together. They will decide it on the field, and I say God bless it, right? More than we could say for the committee in college football. But
three of the next Bills 4 games are 2 against the Patriots and 1 against the Buccaneers. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out right quick, and one of those is in Tampa as well. So we're gonna find out a lot about the Bills coming up here in the next few weeks.
See, because I'm a raging idiot, I'm somebody who says the best the Pats can do against the Bills is split.
Certainly possible.
Yeah. However, the Bills playing the Bucks, after seeing what Josh Allen did, and I don't mean the quarterback, I mean the defensive end in Jacksonville, you expect me to believe Lavonte David and company up front there, and Shaq Barrett and those guys let Josh Allen live to see another day? You're out of your gourd. So based on that alone, I'm inclined to pick the Pats somehow to win that division. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I had the Pats out of the playoffs by a single game in my prediction. And I was all prepared for it. Kyle was right that Belichick's better than you think, and he's got a rookie quarterback, and he's going to take him that far. And the only thing that kept him out last year was COVID with Cam bleeping Newton. Well, little would I know that Belichick would prove me so right. I was wrong about how right I was.
If you want to crown them, you crown their ass.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ask me to try to say that again. So yeah, I'm going to say the Pats as winning the AFC East today. I'm not prepared to put a lock on it, but I will put a lock on those teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'll keep the Bills in the playoffs as well. The Titans 8-4, leading the South. I mean, they're gross. They're stupid.
You're like, ew.
Like, I got to pull up their schedule here right quick, because I got to find out. Do they play? Okay,
they host Jacksonville.
They're on a bye this week. Then they host Jacksonville. They're at Pittsburgh. They host the 49ers. Then they have the Dolphins and Texans. Man, like, I'd like to think the Colts could catch them.
The Colts schedule remaining, if I remember correctly, is right terrible.
Let me pull it up here. So
because you listed that off when I was talking about Reich as the possibility.
The Colts have the Texans, then a bye, then New England, Arizona, the Raiders, and the Jags. I won't put a lock on it, but I'm pretty certain the Titans are going to hold it off here.
Listen, I predicted when I was writing the AFC South preview for the 3pointconversion.com, I predicted that the Titans would win and that they would do so by, I believe it was 2 games, finishing with 11 wins. I'm looking pretty good so far.
There you go. The Chiefs 7-4, leading the West. In a similar way, like I think I'll probably go about the same field to it as I think they probably hold this spot because everything around them, the foundation below them is sinking. So
isn't it a hell of a note that we're in a position where we're comparing Patrick Mahomes II and Cousins,
right?
Kirk Cousins,
right?
What universe is this? What has happened to football, Jim?
It doesn't make sense, man. Nothing about this year, be it college or the National Football League.
We're still here for it, man.
Friggin' sense. None of it.
We're still here for it.
I got the Chiefs holding because I don't have faith in the Chargers, the Raiders, or the Broncos.
And here will come AJ. EJ, I told you.
Broncos.
I told you they'd make the playoffs. They made it because 2 years ago the NFL extended the playoffs. GTFOH.
Absolutely. We already said the Bengals are getting in. We already said the Bills are getting in. So now let's look at the final wild card spot in the AFC. Currently, the 6-5 Chargers, again, like the great Bob Uecker would say, just a bit outside. You have Raiders at 6-5, Browns at 6-6, Broncos at 6-5, and
the Denver Broncos.
and the Indianapolis Colts at 6-6. I don't really have much faith. I don't have much faith in the chart. I'm not ready to like totally throw them out.
Right.
But like maybe it's something in the water in that new stadium in LA. Both these teams are crumbling like a cheap suit in the month of November. The Raiders, I have no faith in right now.
Yeah. Even though they beat your Cowboys, which is ironic.
Well, COVID also beat my Cowboys.
Ooh.
The Colts, I definitely don't have faith in, and
the Denver Broncos.
You enjoy that too much.
I love it. It's a great clip.
You are a Cowboys fan, so it would make sense that you would ride horses. Ha!
I feel bad for the horse.
Ooh.
I don't have faith in the Broncos. So I'm looking. Is it the Chargers or is it the Browns? And like
here's the reason Browns it's not the Browns.
I think the Browns are just they're too beat up.
Look at that schedule.
The Browns schedule?
Their next game is the Ravens again.
Oof.
And they still have a game against the Bengals at some point.
So it's not the Browns. So what you're trying to tell me, Kyle, is it's not the Browns. So the Browns, yeah, let's look at it because those are the two I'm picking between. Yeah, they're on a bye week. Then they play Baltimore, the Raiders, the Packers, the Steelers at Pittsburgh on January 3rd, because we know the weather in Pittsburgh on January 3rd is just going to be so pleasant. And then the Cincinnati Bengals for the Chargers. I believe, are they on a bye this? No, they already had their bye. So the Chargers are at the Bengals. Then they have the Giants, Chiefs, Texans, Broncos, Raiders. The road is easier for the Chargers, so I'll keep them in.
Exactly my point, sir. And oh, by the way, the Chargers have Justin Herbert, not Maker Bayfield. Okay.
And it's not even that they have Maker Bayfield. It's the fact that you have how bad. Okay.
Here we go.
How bad is Case Keenum? If you have a Baker Mayfield whose body is literally crumbling from the inside and the outside, and the Browns coaching staff is like, no, he's still our better option.
Oh, no, I don't think that's what happened at all. No. I think we're a run first team anyway. And if we don't put Baker out there, the press and the Colin Cowherds of the world are absolutely lose their mind. I think there are outside forces that pressured that. That was not a football decision.
Well, that's true. That is true. I agree with that. Unfortunately, there's there's a lot of that happens as well. So you're probably right there. Ooh, that'd be gross. I just saw somebody question if Matt Rule should be the new coach at Notre Dame. God damn it, that would be awful. Please don't. Like, why? Why would you do that? Why would the world even put that out there for me?
I don't understand why that's that awful. Oh wait, yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, we do. Anything else to add, Kyle?
Everything's gonna be okay, Jim. I love you. And the helmets will still be gold, no matter how much darkness there is on the schedule.
That is true. That is true. The worst part is, so like, I was already looking at the start of next season and dreading it because Notre Dame travels to the Horseshoe to start next year. That prospect has got a whole lot uglier. Oh, although if it's any consolation in my mind, the Buckeyes usually start slow to the year, but if you watched Ann Arbor, they finished slow this year as well.
If you believe the conspiracy theorists, they're going to hire Urban Meyer, right?
Ew. Ew. There's a name I don't want anywhere near that coaching search. Kyle, let the people know where they can keep up with all that you are doing, sir.
Wow, man. Hey, listen, always glad to be aboard as a special contributor here on the Huddle Up Podcast, doing things with my guy, Big Jim. All good time all the way around. You can find me, Kyle Nash, the student of the game, on Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Instagram as the same, the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my work with the Black and Gold Banneret, covering UCF sports football and basketball, both men's and women's. Look out for that here. Go on. Trust me, if you enjoy college basketball, the UCF Knights are a fun team to watch, and I think they have a good shot at making the dance. So you may want to follow them a little bit. Then, of course, for my NFL work, with me covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, among other things, with the 3-point conversion, the 3pointconversion.com. That's a good time. By the way, the number 3, not the word 3. And, of course, check out my work with Ernest Christian on the Earnestly Speaking podcast, where football is awesome because I teach EJ every week. I might be the student, but I'm a grad assistant teaching EJ football every week because good God knows he needs the help. Anyways, sorry, Patriots fan. I'm just joking. Anyhow, and then check out my work as well with Demosthenes Euclid. Jim, I got to tell you, it is a real treat this season. We're releasing Thank You for Smoking in context with our Thanksgiving movie this year. It's a family fun romp, whatever. And of course, the Griswold Vacation movies are things we covered. Vacation came out earlier. Christmas Vacation will be forthcoming. And hey, listen, if I got to hear about Die Hard being a Christmas movie when it's not, you know what? Hilarity by Default's got you covered. We will have Eyes Wide Shut as one of our Christmas offerings this year. So there you go. Hey, there's a Christmas tree in every scene. At any rate, that is my stuff. And of course,
but where does the Christmas tree go? You know what?
We'll
leave that to the Phil.
Check out my work as well with oldschool101.com at A7BN Sports. My work with Captain Chris Hill and the Captain and Company Morning Show. Jim.
All right, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining us again. We will be back to our normal Tuesday night next week. This week, I just had to get a little bit wacky. Have some plans tomorrow night. So appreciate everyone listening and supporting as always. You can follow me at Big Jim Sports. Make sure you're following the show at Huddle Up Podcast on Facebook and Twitter, at Huddle Up Pod on Instagram, our home network, of course, and GSC Sports, and NGSCsports.com. And our secondary home is the Leap Sports and Music Network, LEEIB Sports.com. You can get your Huddle Up merchandise at whatamaneuver.net. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to us on all podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you can find your podcasts. If you do subscribe on Apple Podcasts, rate and review the show. Tell at least one person about us this week and spread the word of the show. Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and go for the win.